You said you have a starter?
I have an idea for one.
Is it going to be terrible?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You just got to roll with it when I start with it.
All right.
You ready?
No.
Well, good. Hold on. About your nose there?
Mm-hmm. What?
All right, we're about 4 feet. We got to go 2 more feet back. We got to go wider here. We can't start until we're 6 feet apart.
The 6 foot thing. That was so bad, John. So bad. So bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all I got.
So, what happened to your face?
Nothing.
Why? I don't know. You just got a lot uglier.
Oh, because I shaved.
No, I've seen you shave before. You're still ugly.
Yeah, I don't know. You haven't drank enough yet.
That's there you go. Man, what a weird week.
Yep. To say the least.
I would like to just address something really quickly, at least my personal thoughts about kind of the last week here before we get into our topic of the day. And
I left my thoughts in the after show last week, so I'm going to leave them right there.
And yeah, there you go. And the political climate that we have a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice on the Wheelin' page on Facebook and Twitter and things like that, we're having a little bit of fun with some funny 4x4 comments and things when there's various state addresses and things like that.
I love that.
We're having a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of comments. That does not mean that we are insensitive to the happenings of the world. Some people might believe that things are overblown. Some people think that we're not taking it seriously enough. I don't think that anybody can really conclusively say at this moment. But one thing that is true, and I believe myself, and John, I don't know, maybe you do or maybe you don't, but I believe that laughter is the best medicine for everything in the world.
I think alcohol helps too.
Well, there you go. We're going to continue with some of our funny antics through this whole thing, and it does not mean that we are, we're just trying to give people a laugh. That's what we're trying to do. That's part of our job here at Wheelin' is we're educational, we're informative, but we try to
what?
Well, the history stuff we do, but we try to be funny a little bit sometimes.
I just got to know one thing. Did you ever get an answer about stuff in 37s under the excursion in your? The one comment on the Trump speech?
Yeah, not from Trump himself. Mike Pence, though, got back with me. And because nobody wants to listen to him anyways.
Nice.
But no, it was some guys like that. But today's
was awesome.
The Toyota Land Cruiser one, I was like, bring this, because we did that a couple episodes back where we talked about the 70 series and the solid axles and how we need them here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And guys were like, heck yeah, we need this, and not all heroes wear capes. And
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
nice.
As of this recording, I think we're over 12,000 views or something on that one. So or likes or whatever. But
very cool.
All right, man. You want to talk about some vehicles today?
Sounds good to me.
Let's do it.
Yep.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange, broadcasting from the Thin Line Off-Road Studio. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
All right. So we've explained ourselves and where we stand, humor, stuff like that. But we can still take things seriously sometimes, too.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I would like to take seriously here is we're a 4x4 show. We're an off-road show. And some of you may have heard of the term a bug-out vehicle. Now, bug-out vehicles, I'm sure you've heard of the term before.
Yeah, it's just a vehicle that's bug-free.
Yep, exactly.
No electrical nuisances, no little critters inside.
And definitely not one of those old wood-bodied station wagons, because those get termites.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Meaning to frame rot.
A bug-out vehicle, is...
Wait, is that where we get the term put it to the floorboard?
Put it to the floor. Oh, yeah, from wooden floors. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Like the old Model A's, Model T's, they were wooden floors. Correct, yes. A bug-out vehicle is... there was probably a technical definition out there somewhere, but this is beyond it's a survival vehicle.
Yeah.
And That's kind of also what an overlanding vehicle is. And if you go all the way back into, I think it was episode 5 or 6, we talked about
early on, yeah.
overlanding and the history of overlanding.
Yep.
A bug out vehicle, in a way, is an overlanding
Yeah.
vehicle a lot of times. It's a vehicle you can survive out of for a extended period of time. Some people take bug out vehicles to the next level, though, where they make things bulletproof, or they make things kind of like we talked about in the SUV Kings episode, episode 3 with the Carlman King, where you could get the bulletproof option.
Yeah.
That'd make a pretty interesting bug out vehicle.
That would. It'd sacrifice fuel mileage, but...
Well, yeah. And so I thought maybe you and I should bounce some ideas today back and forth off of each other as to what we feel, and your idea, my idea might be completely different, what the ultimate
Possible.
bug out vehicle would be, and how to prep your rig for Armageddon, end of the world, a global pandemic, whatever you, and we're not profiteering off this, but it's the topic at hand, and some people, some of our listeners may have never really thought about that before. Like, if I've got to survive zombie apocalypse style out of my vehicle, what am I going to put in it?
I got kind of a plan B. But
You got a plan B. Okay.
Sort of.
Well, so I guess maybe the easiest place to start with this is the obvious. I personally...
Air conditioning.
Well, okay. That's not the obvious in my opinion.
Here,
I personally do not believe that a efficient, effective bug out vehicle can be two-wheel drive.
No, there's no way.
I think that every wheel, every axle that you have on that vehicle. So if you've got a six-wheel vehicle, I think they all need to drive.
Yeah, I could see that.
And on top of that, I think that they all need to be locked so you don't have the slippage on an axle. So, because you got to remember, when you get an off-camber situation, like let's say you're going down the freeway and all of a sudden the freeway's blocked because of whatever, volcanic eruption or dinosaurs or whatever,
Yeah.
And
that's a big concern up here, especially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you need to go off the side of the freeway and through a ditch. If you've got only power to one front wheel and one rear wheel, you got a pretty good chance, even with a four-wheel drive vehicle, of getting stuck in that ditch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm thinking lockers front and rear. So that's my platform. Starting with that, lockers in every axle and four-wheel drive. No two-wheel drive vehicles.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so what do you think would bring... I mean, we'll talk about some of the smaller stuff that you'd put in the vehicle, but if we're talking about platform... where would you be, John? What's your...
Something solid frame. I think that'd probably kind of go hand in hand with multiple axles like that, though. Just something, if you fall and crack, there's a chance you can recover from that with a full frame or repair it. You take something like a unibody, you're going to tweak it and torque it to the point it's just going to fail.
So what you're saying is, even if it's a unibody... whatever you have needs to be structurally strong.
Yes, absolutely.
You need to have something that isn't going to tweak and bend. Yeah. And so, for example, as much as we love our Jeep XJ Cherokees,
unless you're going to stiffen that frame up, it's probably not the best long-term solution.
Because part of being an efficient bug out vehicle is the ability not only to necessarily have to push through, say, disabled cars or debris in the road, like in a tornado situation. Yeah. Or let's say you had a bunch of debris in the road, and you needed to push through it. You need to be able to do that. But you may end up being in a somewhat high speed situation where you have to do some high speed off-roading. Yeah. So you've got let's say a tornado behind you, or you have, high speed zombies or whatever behind you. I don't know, man. Aliens chasing you.
So we're gonna need a tail gunner now in this as well.
Well, we'll get to the protection end of this thing, but if you're in something that's soft structurally, and all of a sudden you have to say go right off the road,
that down with supplies and people,
and go off the road into big bumps and big whoops.
Yeah.
You don't want to bend in half at 30 miles an hour.
Not particularly, no. So solid frame, good suspension. I think, again, that kind of goes hand in hand with the axles.
Yeah.
The next big thing I'd say, and I know what I want to say to this, but I know the opposite is true, or more true. I would say like an old mechanical diesel engine.
Oh, absolutely.
But
fuel
availability. I mean, yeah, with that you can run it on, oil, fuel oil, diesel. You can, convert them to run on veggie oil, waste oil, all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, in a lot of places, gasoline I would think would be easier to get, at least initially.
And there are people that will go back and forth on that. So
and that's why I say I would lean towards the diesel, because you can there's such a wider variety of whatever you can dump in the tank and make it run on.
Well, the old Deuce and a Halfs had multi-fuel engines in them.
Oh, really?
And a multi-fuel engine was a mechanically injected engine. I don't know exactly how it worked, and some of our military folks or Deuce and a Half enthusiasts out there can correct us or tell us about it. But I know that you could run them off of diesel, jet fuel, JP9. You could run them off of motor oil. You could run them off of gasoline. But I believe, and maybe producer Andrew could even tell us, because I know that he was involved with a first responding agency that had some of those way back in the day. But I believe when you run them off of gasoline, you have to put in some oil or something because it's just too thin on the multi-fuels.
Okay.
Producer Andrew's saying he doesn't know either.
Yeah.
I've personally never messed with one. I've known people that have had them. So, but the multi-fuel engine, yes. Now, for what you're saying, gasoline versus diesel, a mechanically injected diesel engine, such as, say, a Mercedes diesel that you have in your Jeep, or a 12-valve or a 4BT Cummins, pretty much anything that burns that you can put in that tank that's not going to clog up your fuel filter, it will run on. It'll run on kerosene.
Yeah, and that's why I like the idea of anything that's oil-based, you can run it.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. You can't do that with a gasoline engine. No. You can't just take all of a sudden and start putting... I mean, with a gasoline engine, you might get away for a little while running some E85 in it. If it's not an E85 vehicle, it's going to run hot and start burning stuff up.
Yeah.
But, that's about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so with a diesel engine, you do that. But keep that in mind. Like John's saying here, a mechanical diesel engine...
Yeah, not a modern, an old one.
Pretty much something made up to about 1997 or so.
Yeah, and that's kind of like I said, my plan B. Yeah, there's some electronics in Pegasus, but it's just a matter of switching a couple wires around, and I have full functionality of that vehicle in an SHTF situation.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about that.
And that's the reason, too, that our own military, U.S. military, for many years, and they still have in operation mechanical diesel engines.
Nice.
Most vehicles, most Humvees.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought they kind of all switched up.
No, they're almost all military vehicles are diesel.
Nice.
And on top of that, almost all of them, up until recently, were mechanically injected diesels.
Nice.
They are now starting to do some EFI stuff. They're messing around with a few things, but they still have a lot in their fleets that are mechanical. Yeah. And I believe they're going to keep a lot of them in service just because of that.
Yeah.
And another reason, and this is going to sound like a really crazy reason, but an EMP...
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And again, that's part of my plan B. A couple wires and everything's mechanical on that.
Yeah.
That's why I love it.
Now, in an EMP situation, for our listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about there, an electromagnetic pulse. An electromagnetic pulse could happen naturally from a
big solar flare.
A big solar flare.
Yep.
It could also happen by some sort of terrorism where somebody creates a device that can do that. And it's not science fiction. This stuff
this is very real.
This is very real. This happens. Yeah. And an electromagnetic pulse can, for a moment of a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes, days, or even weeks, depending how strong it is, can take out the ability for electricity to travel. So even if you have, say, like an old 350 Chevy gas engine that still needs electricity to run the distributor, an EMP is going to take that engine out. A diesel engine, an old mechanical diesel engine, does not require any electricity to run.
Nope.
Now,
that's the beauty of it.
Here's your problem, though, is your transmission.
I'm all good there.
They eventually, so a manual transmission, there's no electronics.
Nope.
Automatics, pretty much by the mid-90s, they started putting all these electronic controls on your transmissions.
Yeah.
So your transmission might not shift if it's not a mechanical. So if you're building a rig and you're building a zombie-proof rig here, if you're going to go with a mechanical diesel engine, you then want to go with a mechanical transmission, either a manual or something like an old TH400 automatic or an Allison automatic.
Something that can be shifted manually.
Something that can be shifted manually. Yeah. Well, or just it shifts automatically, but through hydraulic pressure, not
I
through
always forget
electronic.
about those.
Yeah, the older automatics were that way. The disadvantages is most of the overdrive, or I'm sorry, most of the automatics that are non-electronic don't have an overdrive.
Yeah.
There are some exceptions, like the T8 or the 700R4 GM transmission, and some of the Allisons and things like that. So you'd want to, if you need the overdrive because you're going to go high speeds, but that's typically not what a bug-out vehicle is about. Bug-out vehicle is about being
Getting
able to
somewhere safe, maintaining that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to go right to drivetrain, but I think that was important.
That's kind of the next step, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of gone down up. Now we got to go front to back.
Well, true. We talked a little about the axles. I think wheels and tires are important too.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. That's kind of what makes it all happen. You put slicks on there, like you said, you got to go off road. You're screwed.
the next step beyond just a good, say, off-road tire like a mud tire would be to go to a bead lock
Yes.
to keep your tire on the rim.
Yeah. A run flat if you're fortunate enough to be so equipped with.
Exactly. And then a run flat on the inside, like a Hummer H1 surplus wheel, or some of the bigger 20-inch military stuff.
Yeah.
Can do that.
You get those ones that have the square tread blocks in them. Those are nice.
Exactly.
Those are. I had a hard enough time when we were messing with the one rubber run flat. I couldn't imagine trying to put one of those things. Oh, they'll probably split though, aren't they?
What's that?
The ones that have like the fingers on them, the run flats.
Yeah.
Those are like in two pieces, aren't they?
Yeah, the magnesium ones.
Yeah. I was gonna say hard enough time with a rubber one. I don't know how in the world you'd get a solid one of those inside
They
the
bolt
tire
together.
without ruin it. Yeah. See, that would have been much easier.
Yeah, they are.
The rubber ones suck.
And people say, well, wait a minute, why would I need to run flat? Maybe I'll just carry a couple spares. And I've seen that where people have said, I've got a bug-out vehicle, and they put like 6 spares on the roof.
Yeah.
Well,
now you're sacrificing weight and other storage, though.
weight, storage, and time possibility, And if you're in a situation where you're...
profile.
Yeah, and if you're getting away from something in a high-speed situation, you've got... Or not even high speed, but you got somebody at your tail.
Yeah.
You blow a tire... You're not going to pull over and ask Mr. Bad Guy to wait while you change your tire.
No, that's not how that works.
So, in my mind, in my world, run flats beat spares.
Oh, yeah.
All day long.
If you can make it happen, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So, that's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
One last thing before we take a break, John. This is a debate that has gone on in the bug-out vehicle world for a long time. Small and quick, or big, massive that you can carry a lot of stuff with you.
Small and quick.
You like small and quick for your bug-out vehicle. For your bug-out vehicle.
If you're trying to get away from somebody or something, you can get away. If you got something big, chances are who or whatever is going to catch up to you. Now you have to defend it. Mm-hmm. So can you? That depends what you're carrying. Equipment and supply-wise, it's totally dependent.
I tend to lean that same way with you as well. And that's kind of like the overlanding crowds. The true overlander world, they even have a hard time, even though they've been embracing in the last couple of years the full-size truck platform. In many parts of the world, getting down certain streets or certain trails with a full-size, full-width truck can be quite difficult.
And that's another good point in that note. If an SHTF scenario we're talking here, if you're bugging out 3 months, 6 months down the road, roads aren't maintained, trails aren't maintained, they're going to start to overgrow. You got a big honking truck full of spare tires. You're dragging on the sides. You're catching stuff. You risk getting stuck.
And the heavier you are, the more chance you are of bogging down.
Yeah, you got something light and small. If you're making supply runs, you're going to make a couple more runs, but you're going to be able to do that a lot faster, a lot more efficiently than with a big truck.
Now, when you're talking, let's do that for the next section. Let's take a quick break, and I want to talk about another section of that still goes on the small vehicle versus big vehicle.
Sounds good. See you in a minute.
There's never just one of them. When you see one yellow jacket buzzing around, you can bet there's a whole colony somewhere nearby. Sometimes in nests as large as a basketball. Yellow jackets and wasps are bold, they're aggressive, and their stingers definitely hurt. So don't let them become a problem around your home. Call ABC Home and Commercial Services. They're the best in pests. ABC Home and Commercial Services. Call them today, 810-794-5678.
We're talking about work pens, right?
Yep.
Writing utensils.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I showed you that pen that I have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice.
Cheers.
Doesn't beat the free Pilot pens from where I used to work. The only thing I miss about there is getting these nice pens. I'm down to my last 3.
Anyways, man.
That's good.
So the point that I wanted to bring up right now, though, and this is one of those kind of one way or the other, bulletproofing.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
On a small vehicle, it's much more difficult.
Yep.
Plus the weight.
The weight is probably the number one thing. Is more drag, you're going to burn more fuel.
I mean, people are bulletproofing with thick aluminum panels now.
So small caliber, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
what I'm saying is, you're not going to most likely
That's a tough
bulletproof a Jeep Wrangler
no.
without swapping a bigger engine into it.
Yeah.
Real heavy duty suspension.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talk. So if you're starting with a base, a 3/4 ton or 1 ton series truck, you can get away with a little bit more in that department. However, I mean, hard to say.
I would argue if you're going to go full size, you might as well go something with a real heavy chassis like a F450, F550, or a Dodge 4500 or 5500, because that way you've got something that'll really hold the weight.
And if you're gonna go big scale, I would say yes.
Yeah.
If you're going to go small scale, if it's an absolute necessity, the bare basics.
Yeah.
Maybe the windows, unless we're talking no windows, just like plates in the doors. Guard your fuel tank, guard your engine.
There you go.
Maybe put a plate in the door just in case, but you're adding so much weight to that. All your benefit of fuel is gone.
And so
in those situations, the ability to get fuel is going to be your number one problem.
Exactly.
And parts and repairs, obviously, but we could probably go into a whole thing about that.
Absolutely.
You need to be mobile.
I am glad you mentioned the fuel tank guarding. Mm-hmm. I think that's very, very important.
Oh yeah.
From underneath shields, it helps not only for off-road, hitting rocks, things like that.
Yeah.
But also IEDs, explosives underneath. Not saying it's going to 100% protect you.
If we're getting to that degree.
But some sort of shielding on the bottom of the tank is better than nothing.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
Better than just having an exposed fuel tank there.
Yeah, like you said, if someone's chasing, shooting at you, gets one off, hopefully you'll get lucky and it'll just puncture the tank and not ignite it. Mm-hmm. But, obviously you'd rather protect it and not have, leak out all your fuel and everything.
Exactly. Speaking of guarding, I think that guarding the front of your vehicle, especially the radiator area.
Yes, absolutely.
And kind of integrating in that same radiator area, guarding the front of the vehicle, something that is strong enough that you can ram, say, a parked car at 5 or 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We're not expecting you to be able to go 50 miles an hour into something.
No, you're going to be hurting after that.
It's not like the movies where they do that, and they go along and
no.
they hit it and just flies to the side.
Yeah.
Even if you got half-inch plate, you're going to be hurting, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
But being able to weld some solid steel front bumpers, something that especially...
Extra lighting in the front.
Extra lighting's not a bad idea. This is when the light bars actually come in.
Absolutely.
But something to protect your radiator. Your radiator is the most vulnerable thing. Yeah.
You still have to have airflow, so unfortunately you can't always completely block it.
Two pieces of expanded steel that are staggered away from each other in front of a radiator. That's a lot of times what the military vehicles do, things like that. It seems simple, but it actually really works. It'll stop small arms fire. It'll stop rocks, sticks, brush.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, just some sort of basic protection for what keeps it going. Mm-hmm. And again, small vehicle versus big vehicle, it's going to change.
Yeah.
At this point, aesthetics doesn't matter. You got to go with functional. You got to go with what works.
Now, speaking of armoring, I'm going to give a hack out there to our listeners that you can actually do. And this came back from way before people thought about bug out vehicles. This came from the old demolition derby days, and it was eventually outlawed.
Okay.
And this is something that you can do as a cheap way and simple way to bulletproof your vehicle in a certain extent. But once again, you need to consider about weight. And so a heavier duty suspension of springs is a good idea.
Yeah.
But you can pour concrete into body panels.
Yeah.
In the old demolition derby days, they would do that. They would pour concrete, or they would get like hydraulic cement, run it real thick, two inches on the inside of body panels.
Yeah.
And it would make the vehicles much more sturdy in a demolition
yeah.
derby. They eventually made it illegal. And
That they outlawed pretty quick. I
did.
used to read the rule books every year because I wanted to get into that. There were a lot of things people used to do back in the day that they outlawed pretty quick. And for just those reasons, they're too solid.
yeah.
For this situation, no holds barred, but
Yeah,
survival is key.
Yeah, if you're thinking you're going to survive, you need to
Yeah.
get so many miles, and you're afraid of being shot at
Yeah.
or something like that, then, getting a couple bags of quick-rete and pouring them in your door panels. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crude, but it works.
If it works, that's all that matters.
And, the same thing is a lot of people don't realize bulletproof glass, but they think it's something special, that it's just, the special glass you buy. Bulletproof glass is multiple panels of glass together.
Yeah.
So you can actually stack yourself multiple panels of plexiglass, anything like that. You can make your own bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
You watch YouTube videos on how to do it. We're not thinking bullets here, full on war or anything like that.
This is Mad Max.
Yeah, we're and I don't think neither John or I believe that we're going to be at that state anytime soon.
No. I mean, I'd be all right with zombies. But
Oh, okay. All right. So talking about all of that, now, if we're talking about for a bug out vehicle, I think that the next thing that you really need to talk about is kind of supplies. Now, we did cover a lot of that. If you go back in one of our old episodes and we talk about your everyday trail carry or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't remember what episode that was. I want to say maybe
was
8,
tracking the
9.
numbers.
Yeah, it was around 8 or 9, something like that. It's one of our earlier episodes. And John had a very comprehensive list about fire starters and things like that. And so we don't really need to get into all of that again, because I
No.
think you and I covered that for 20 or 30 minutes in that episode.
Most of it was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I think is important is the stuff that beyond your everyday trail carry for an off-roader, what else would you...
Fuel and fluids
Well, yeah, you'd mentioned that before.
for you and the vehicle.
Yeah.
Probably the number one. Again, some basic survival gear, fire starter, tent, or a couple blankets, keep
Yeah.
warm with, candle or something.
Sure.
What was it they used to teach? A candle and a coffee can, and you can heat up a vehicle like inside, keep it warm enough to not freeze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. Just your basic bare necessities.
And if you're so inclined to be a gun type of person,
Self-defense.
self-defense of some sort.
More important and most important note on that, don't just have it to have it. Train with it. Learn how to use it
Correct.
correctly.
Find a
Practice.
CPL. You have, in fact, do a shout out. We have a mutual friend that does CPL training now,
So
right?
I'll give a shout out to my buddy Sean. We can post the information on 4x4 Talk later.
Okay.
So he and his dad are training through their company Prime Defense for home defense CPL. It's an ever expanding kind of realm of training and defense, personal protection training.
Okay.
So you want to learn how to do it, take the class, get your license to carry, kind of get a home defense plan in place. So should something happen, you and, everybody at home knows what to do.
Yeah.
And properly. To have a gun is one thing. To know how to use it is another.
Absolutely. I fully agree that the training
Yeah.
with it, getting comfortable with
Absolutely.
it,
You don't have to be 100%.
no,
You have to know how to safely use it, how to safely store it,
correct.
and go from there. We won't get into the whole political thing about the guns. We'd
No.
be here all day.
No, absolutely.
But if you're gonna have it, learn how to use it and properly.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Go from there.
The one thing I would say on guns is that for most people in a bug out vehicle situation, unless you're a total gun nut,
Yeah.
one gun is probably sufficient for
Generally
self-defense.
speaking, yeah. If you, depending on what you have, it can double as a hunting rifle
Absolutely.
or hunting weapon.
Yes.
And that, I mean, unless you could have a bow, you can use snare traps. There's so many different ways to hunt.
Yeah.
This just makes it a lot easier.
Well, what I was going to say is if you are going to have more than one gun in your bug out vehicle, or, it would be gun because you wouldn't be talking necessarily about bows and arrows in this situation. But if you were going to have more than one, a good rule or a good idea is, unless you're talking the difference between, say, a shotgun and a handgun, if you're going to have multiple handguns, have them be the same caliber.
Yes.
And so that way
That's
you
the
can
biggest
carry
thing.
a certain amount of ammunition, 100 rounds, 200 rounds, whatever you're going to carry with you. But that way it will go between the different guns that you have.
I'll just sum it up. There's some people I hang out with, and we talk about this kind of stuff sometimes. And that is the number one thing.
The moms down at the park with the little kids and all that?
Yeah. The moms at the park with the kids.
All right, there you go.
No, that's the biggest thing. You can have 30, 40, 100,000 rounds of ammo. Now you got to move. Mm-hmm. That's all of your storage space in your vehicle.
Yeah.
To have that much ammo, to have a ton of supplies is great if you're stationary. But if you got to move, it does you no good.
So having 16 different calibers doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I got 16 different guns. Everything's something different. All right, cool, great. What are you going to defend yourself with? What is your road gun? What are you going to take with you when you got to go?
For personal defense and everyday use, something I was taught a long time ago when I took a CPL course was that the ideal is to carry the largest caliber that you can accurately, consistently shoot with comfortably.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because larger the caliber, the more effective it's going to be going against an intruder or even, say, a bear or something like that.
Yeah, and then, so on the same note of that, this question comes up with anybody who's a gun nut. And the three common 9mm, 40, 45.
Okay.
And for the sake of
all
this...
fine rounds to use.
For the sake of this discussion, I'm going to take 40 out of that equation, just stick with 9 and 45.
Okay.
Your opposite ends of the spectrum, a smaller, more capacity, larger, more power, less capacity.
Oh, yeah.
That, also plays into it.
It does.
You're talking something, your typical... I don't want to say typical. Your 9mm, you're going to get a lot more rounds out of it, but it's not going to have the knockdown power of a 45.
Exactly.
Plain and simple.
Exactly.
So, again, if you're a really good shot, go with something bigger.
Yep.
If you're not as good, go with a smaller one.
Now, I'm going to go the other end of this just for a second. Let's say you're not comfortable with guns or you are not able to legally own guns, because I'm not going to suggest to people to do things illegally.
Yeah,
but for whatever reason. But you need to have something for protection beyond, say, carrying a knife or a stick or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this on an old podcast before, but believe it or not, a strange thing that can be used for personal protection, not that that's the idea, and is 50 state legal, to the best of my knowledge, to have in your vehicle, is a flare gun.
Oh. Yeah, I could see that.
Now, personally, I would never want to get shot with a flare gun.
No. No.
But
I've shot many of those off.
But even
fun.
Let's say you're out in the wilderness, you're completely stranded. Obviously, a flare gun can be useful.
Yeah, at the same time, again, depending on the scenario, it could be detrimental.
Yeah, well, saying where you're at.
Yeah.
But if you had, say, let's say a rabid animal coming at you or something that, shooting a flare gun in its direction, even if you don't hit it,
a little bit better of a chance.
Yeah, you're gonna have a little better of a chance. So it's just something.
I gotta apologize. I keep itching. I got a haircut and a shave, in case you haven't noticed, before I came out here today, and it's.
I thought you had the zombie virus.
No, I didn't get the T virus. Is that what it is? The T virus?
I'm not sure.
You know the movie I'm referring to? Oh, all right. Well,
you're talking Resident Evil.
Yes, I wasn't gonna name drop them, but yeah.
Oh, whatever.
I love those movies.
I don't care.
I haven't seen any in a long time, but anyways.
Okay, so something we didn't touch on. I personally don't think it's as big of a thing to have in a bug out vehicle as it is in an overland vehicle. Recovery equipment.
Yeah.
I think it's not a bad idea to have maybe a winch or something, but it is a lot of weight. And a winch at the front of a vehicle that you may have to ram something with, you're going to damage the winch.
Yeah.
So my personal thing is with a bug out vehicle, winch, carrying something like a come along, coffin hoist, something like that with you might be.
There's video. I know producer Andrew shared it to us in our podcast chat the one day. The rope and two logs thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know what that's called, but yeah, I've seen that before, and I mean it's again one of those skills to learn for such a thing.
That's something in a bug out vehicle would be very, very useful.
Oh, yeah.
Probably even more so than overlanding or anything else would be to carry with you maybe a couple 100 feet of high tensile rope. Yeah, good rope.
Yeah.
You could use that for a number of things.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the nice thing is anything you want to keep, you want it versatile.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want just something that's only got one use. I mean, there's going to be stuff that is, but anything you can carry that's got multiple uses saves you space and, lets you have room for more supplies.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Let's take another quick break, and then I think we just need to have maybe a little personal message here.
Sounds good.
Hey, it sounds like it's time to swap out that old engine for something better, John.
Yeah, man, but I have so much into my trans and transfer case set up already. I don't want to change those too.
Sounds like you need to call Quick Draw Brand Adapters. They specialize in conversion bell housings for nearly all diesel and gasoline engines, including the new 2.8R Cummins.
I like weird engines. I want something different.
Then you definitely need to visit QuickDrawBrand.com today. They have those hard-to-find parts. They also have used diesel engines available. You can call them at 513-446-9654.
Cool, I'll do that. See what they have. Thanks.
Well, John, did you have any other things that you wanted to mention briefly about bug out vehicles or anything?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, I guess we kind of already covered that.
Well, we were talking pretty fast. We covered a lot of things. I just want to slow down for a minute here and give a little bit of a personal message to our listeners because...
Sounds good, Keith.
Yeah. Our listeners, we have listeners all over the world. I know that we have listeners in Greece. We have many listeners in Italy. Especially Italy right now has... Their death toll has gotten to the point where it is higher than China.
Yeah.
We do have listeners in China. We have listeners in Australia. We have listeners all over the place. This global event is truly that. It is a global event. And from me and from Johnny Orange here at Wheelin', I think that we want to reach out. We want to offer our ray of hope, our condolences. We want to continue to offer you this awesome show. We may have to, if there's different quarantine things or whatever, we may have to change our platform a little bit, but we're going to continue to do this. But, we want all of our Wheelin' fans out there and in the Wheelin' world to come together, and I would like to encourage them to... we were kind of joking a little bit about bug out vehicles a little bit here, and we're saying different things. But this is an excellent, excellent time to reach out to your friends and your neighbors who are not necessarily into the off-roading world and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you have a knowledge of this stuff, because you're a fan, you listen to us, and you're into off-roading, this is a great time to reach out to them and say, hey, let me teach you a little bit about how to recover your vehicle if it's stuck. If you know your neighbor is a total, just indoor type, or not indoor, but total non-mechanical person, and they don't know how to change a tire or something, maybe, hey,
offer to help.
Offer to show them how to do that. The off-road world has, for a very long time, been a survival world.
Yeah.
And if you can, take and, just use this time and that we have going on right now to introduce or help however you can your friends and your family and the people around you through your knowledge of the off-road world, then do that.
Share it. Teach
Yeah.
'em.
John, you got any messages? Anything you want to say?
I mean, you pretty much hit it all on the head.
You know,
Condolences to those who've lost someone, and best wishes to those who are in a bad situation and don't know what's going on yet.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we don't know. We don't know if this is something that is way overblown. We don't know if this is something that is really serious.
Regardless of that, a huge thanks to all the first responders, medical personnel, and everybody that's involved in it, whether they want to be or not. Huge thanks and appreciation to you guys.
And actually, I would like to, and thank you very much as well from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for saying that, John. I would like one last thing. John, and tell me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but we are in Southeast Michigan. Okay. And John and I are both extremely knowledgeable in off-road recovery. John, probably even more so than myself, is very knowledgeable in proper usage of guns, how to shoot, and how to, personal protective type equipment. Basic survival type of skills. Now, we are not doing this. He plugged earlier his friend, or our friend that is doing the CPL courses. That's not what we're doing here. But if anybody is in Southeast Michigan and they just really need somebody to show them the ropes in this world a little bit and some of the survival stuff, reach out to us, and if we can help you somehow, whether
we'll
it's
do what we can.
Over the phone or even meet you in person, whatever the case may be, because we're out there for the people too. This is,
it's a family thing.
It is a family thing, and keep your family safe, and that's what we'd like to do.
Yep.
But John, there's enough sombering thoughts, I think. I know you've got some messages that you like to always kind of say here at the end, so let me hand the mic over to you.
Sounds good. Well, if you guys have any questions or comments about any of our episodes or this one today, feel free to get a hold of us on our 4x4 Talk page on Facebook. Leave us a message or comment. You can find that, just quick search 4x4 Talk or facebook.com/groups/4x4 Talk. For more bonus content, make sure to check us out at patreon.com/wheelinradio. Get access to that as low as $2 a month. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button at the bottom of the video player, and make sure to hit subscribe to see more content from us as we do it. And as always, thanks for listening, and have a good one, everybody.